Welcome to episode 2 of the Westcombe Project. You find me driving around Somerset in a beat-up old Land Rover with Richard Calver, basically living the dream. We find out more about Westcombe Dairy and the journey that they're on. If you're enjoying the Westcombe Project, make sure you subscribe today so that you don't miss out on any other food and farming content that's coming soon to this channel. Enjoy.
I think farming, because I think if there's something wrong, I've got plenty of time in the day to sort it out. And B, farming, because it's very weather dependent, you might make a plan yesterday that you're going to do this, that and the other. And then you wake up and the weather's changed, and although you've looked at the forecast, I looked at the forecast just now, it looks fine, but you might have to change all your plans because the weather had changed. So as I go round in the morning, it's a thinking time really, because I'm going round just normally me and the dog, and you're looking at crops and looking at things and generally getting the day planned out, because by the time you get back home, maybe 7:30, there are other things. We might find that something's broken down in the dairy. The boiler doesn't start. Hasn't started.
So all your plans are out the window anyway.
Yes, and then you've got time. If you know the boiler doesn't start at sort of like 6 o'clock in the morning, it's better than knowing it at 7:30 or something like that, or someone phoning you up when the cheese staff come in at 7. If you know early on, then you've got time to react. Frank, I've learned a lot from him, and he'll say, why are you doing that? And I've done that for a long time, and I suddenly think, well, actually, why am I doing that? And he said, well, wouldn't it be better to do that? And I think, why didn't I think of that? And then I try and make out it's my idea. And he says, no, I said that, Dan. I said, no. We'd have done that anyway, Tom. No, you wouldn't. Now, I'm going to feed these cattle now, but it's quite dangerous, so you probably need to stay in the Land Rover. They will, it slightly worries me, these animals barging about, but I've managed to be all right so far, just me and the dog. So we've got 4 groups of cattle to feed.
Hello and welcome to the Westcombe Project. I'm Sam Wilkin. So we're back down in Somerset and I'm off on the rounds with Richard. Richard describes this as his thinking time. It's before anyone else is up and about, and he's off in his Land Rover with the dog to visit the fields, the herds spread out across the land in this part of Somerset. We pop into Milton and say hello to Nick Millard. We relay messages to Wayne, one of the tractor drivers. And then we head back to Manor Farm for a bit of breakfast. But before breakfast, I pop my head into the milking parlour and catch up with the herdsman at Manor Farm, Raymond. Now, I think it's worth clarifying what's happening at Westcombe. Westcombe has 2 farms. There's Manor Farm and Milton Farm. Milton Farm is where Nick Millard, who we met last time, works. That's where they're doing the paddock grazing. It's where the herbal lays are. It's where the Westcombe Project was inspired by. Manor Farm is perhaps a more traditional farming setup. They are undertaking the same breeding programme as Milton Farm, so we're seeing the dairy shorthorns being interbred with the Holsteins. We'll get to that later in the podcast. But the cows are out in big fields, and the herdsman, Raymond, has a more traditional way of looking at farming. This was going to be an episode about those rounds that I was doing with Richard. It's going to be an episode about herbal lays and cows in particular, because we didn't really touch on those in episode 1. But it's become an episode about man management. How does Richard manage the expectations of a team of quite different characters? People with lots of expertise in their own particular areas, but who don't perhaps agree on certain of the elements that are happening at Westcombe Dairy. I think this is going to become one of the more interesting strands of the Westcombe Project. How does Richard, how does Tom, how does Nick relay the message of what they're doing? In many ways, when they speak to me, they're preaching to the choir. I believe in what they're doing. But how do they translate that to people who are used to doing things a different way? Well, we'll have to see on the Westcombe Project.
silage on Friday, and that was fine. But we filled the pit up, so we've mowed a lot others for big bales, and we've had most of it done. We mowed another 100 acres for big bales, including that paddock at the back of Spargrove, the one by the lake on the right that we normally have for hay, and I did mow it for hay, and to be honest, I chickened out because they talked about rain possibly at the weekend, and I thought if we're trying to do this whole crop, and we've got an odd 4 acres of stuff sat there that we're turning and we're worrying about, and with the animals having to compete, I just thought, well, bugger it, we'll put it into big bales. So they're being done to round bales. The other bales so we're doing the stock for round bales really, because they're easier on the feeding thing, but you'll have plenty of bales to put in the other, in the feed box as well. So that's all what we're doing really. Right. I think everything's pretty straightforward, to be frank. TV testing tomorrow. It is pretty straightforward. Right. I'm glad it went well.
Yeah.
You were pleased with it?
Yeah, it was 8 people couldn't come because of COVID.
Wow.
By the morning there was 8 people.
What, they were pinged or something?
No, 8 of them had it.
Actually had it?
Yeah, 2 of them had it before, and then they'd been in contact with others, and they all took tests, and they had it as well.
Oh wow.
8 people couldn't come.
You were quite glad they didn't come that way?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good day.
Are you, everything all right? Any calves or anything?
Yeah, 1 calf. It's meant to be sexed, but we had a bull calf.
That's a good point, isn't
So
it?
yeah, she's a really good cow, though.
I don't know, ever had that happen before, have we?
Yeah, I went back and looked through to see if she'd been sneakily given something else, that she'd been had a long heat or something, but no, she's just had that.
Wow.
Which is annoying. Unless the wrong straw got pulled out.
Yeah. All right. You're going to keep them in today again?
Yeah, we'll bring them in, and probably tomorrow as well.
Yeah, it's looking hot. Then it cools down after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gather you're coming out later on.
Yeah.
So we're going to go get them in.
Okay, great.
It's very, very hot.
Well, we'll see you later, Nick, then, right?
Cheers, Nick. See you later.
And he's put a hell of a lot into the breeding on here. Hell of a lot. It was always the best. And everybody was proud of the herd. Whoever came in on farm walks couldn't get over how good they were. And then you're throwing it away, and you're not 100% will it work. Fair enough, yes, do milk them, but left Manor a bit longer. And put all the grass breeds at Milton. And let us have the Holsteins, because we're built for Holsteins down here. And for Richard, because it was an exceptional herd, man, without a doubt. But I'm not convinced for the herbal lace, not for these Holsteins. They might be fine on these other things, but not for a Holstein.
Yeah, and he has said that to me. Why can't we do Milton one way and Manor the other way? If we think that the cheese is going to be improved by doing the things we're doing, why wouldn't we do it everywhere?
What are the areas of income? I suppose that's the question. Is that cheese is obviously...
The cheese is by far the most profitable thing
Yeah.
we do.
So
particularly, as long as it's great. If it's not, it can be quite unprofitable if you get it
Sure.
wrong. But that's the thing. And if we want to say that we're going to have a business that is not reliant on people telling us what price we can have for the milk, so we're just producing milk as a commodity for someone else to do.
yeah.
We want to be independent and live or die by our own stuff. And also, for me and Tom, it makes the whole business a lot more interesting, rather than just producing milk for someone else and moaning about the price we're getting, moaning about whatever restrictions they're going to put on us to get it with red tractor and things like that, and just generally, now we understand we don't want antibiotics in the milk anyway because it will turn the cheese off, and so we need to. We've always believed that what fires Tom and me up is the added value bit, as well as everything else, and it all goes together, and you don't know where the starting point is or the finishing point. So you don't really want to be really happy with what we're doing on one farm, producing the best possible milk in our eyes for the cheese. On the other one, say, well, it doesn't really matter, because where we are, we use the milk from both farms.
You've got nice sweet grass, they'll eat that then.
But are they not eating it at Milton? Is there not?
I've no idea at Milton, I don't know. But we know out in that one there, which is our herbal lay, they're fine to start with the beginning of summer, but as the time goes on, they don't like it. Whether it goes bitter, I don't know. But
Because you've got the grass early season, and then it moves into, I mean, certainly at Milton, it's sort of clover, isn't it, through this sort of hotter months? And then
I don't like clover. Cows don't like clover. It's bitter, like eating nitrogen. But no, they won't. They're fine out there in the spring. They go out in that field, and they love it. And they'll eat it right down. But this time of year, and we get a lot of waste out there. This time on, so then we put dry cows out there because they got to eat it. But the milkers just think, oh no, I'm not eating this. I'll wait till I go and have the diet.
Yesterday, when we had lunch, they were asking me which system I thought worked, and I was saying I said last night, I think it's a bit too early to tell. But in cow behaviour, you can see, I mean, their Holsteins up there, they're not waiting at the gate to come in to be milked. They're happily out in the field still grazing. Performance-wise, it's, as I said last night, it's the same. I mean, the amount of food they consume is less at Milton. They're grazing more efficiently, and I suppose if you look at grass being your cheapest form of feed, the more efficiently you can graze the grass. If you look at silage, to get the grass to the cows, you've got to go out with a mow it, you've got to row it up, you've got to get trap thing, you've got to haul the grass back in. Whereas actually you've got your own like forage harvester on 4 legs wandering around grazing. So if you can get them to graze, it must be more efficient. The biggest flaw we found with the system of paddock grazing has been in the last 2 or 3 days when it's got too hot and they've got no shade. The biggest flaw with the manor cows is that when it's wet, they make a hell of a mess in the fields, and we've had to bring them in. They do what's called poaching, which is treading it. So you could argue the two systems have both got their disadvantages, and that really hot you've got to bring them in, really wet you've got to bring these in, whereas the Milton cows are going to a different paddock, they come out of a different gate, so they don't do so much damage. And also because they've got a bigger depth of sward there, because it's grown, it's going to, physically there's more there to keep the cow's feet up.
In theory, you to sort of change your cows first, then go over to it. That would have been better, I would have thought. But there's still, a lot of Holsteins there, isn't there? That's the thing. And this is the last year of Holsteins, pure Holsteins coming in.
Are you interested to see?
Oh yeah, it'd be nice to see, but
What's
that's
gonna
fine.
happen?
But yeah, it's just a big change at once, isn't it, to be fair?
And is that a big change for the cows or a big change for you?
Well, and for the cows, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like your focus is on the happiness and the productivity of the cows.
Yeah, we were always on production, everything. The cow had to be right to get the production right, and it had to go well, and it had to. Otherwise, you had dead cows, or cows wouldn't get in calf and stuff like that. Whereas now, I think you've got to be careful, because if you're trying to cut back on certain things, the Holsteins will suffer. Might have a job to get them back in calf. You can, in theory, you've known for years, you can never mix another breed of cow with a Holstein. Fine Holsteins are pure on their own. Any other breed will mix. But a Holstein with another breed, someone's going to suffer. Like we had the Ayrshires, we had 10. They're nice little animals, but they just got fat as pigs because they couldn't handle the diet. Right. It was too rich for them. So you either, if you fed for the 10 Ayrshires, but the Holsteins, skeletons. So, yeah. But we were always told that you cannot mix anything with a Holstein.
I myself are going a bit against the Holsteins, being not quite so versatile, really. And I'm probably happier. We tried Ayrshires here, and that really didn't work because the Ayrshire's fed on the same diet as a Holstein, went fat, and
Right.
didn't get in calf. So we did try some Ayrshire's. It was a question of, and he was party to this discussion of what breed could we get, that actually we could, because we're still going to have Holsteins here for years anyway until they filter out. So, you won't have a pure shorthorn herd for quite a long time. So therefore, what can we get that actually will be okay on the same diet as a Holstein? And we came to the conclusion that the shorthorn probably would. It's one of the ancient breeds of Britain, and it was dual purpose. And then in the 1950s, they made it. You do get beef shorthorn or dairy shorthorn. They did a bit more selective breeding. So actually, so we chose together that, and he was very much party to that discussion.
It's fine. If it works, it's fine. But that's the only thing that worries me is the Holsteins there. If they was if they were out of it, fine. No matter what you throw at the cows, they will look after themselves. But no, that does worry me with the Holsteins. They've got to be looked after. But I don't know. We should see when time will tell.
It's really interesting that so many of the sort of problems or challenges around the whole idea of what you're doing is to do with management.
Well, it's people management.
Yeah.
It's any business. But there isn't really a challenge because they are getting on with it. We do involve them. We give them. Raymond was asked he's always asked whether he wants to come to a cheese grading. We never exclude it from anything.
No, and he's quite clear that the fact, at the end of the day, it's your farm. If it works, then great.
Yeah.
He just doesn't think that it will.
No.
No. So, in a sense, it doesn't stop him from doing his job.
No.
No. It's just
and the problem is that we will never turn around and say, if we do it and it does work, we'll never say told you so. And I'm very careful what I say about how the paddock system's working up there. I don't say, oh, Nick's doing this, Nick's doing that. I keep really, really quiet about it.
I remember reading an interview with Joel Salatin, where he spoke about farming, how much time you can waste, because it's made up of millions of little jobs, and how much time you can waste just going backwards and forwards, forgetting something, so I don't want the right tool, just walking around, looking at everything that needs to be done.
Planning
now,
ahead.
yeah, and just, I'm here, what can I do? My friends' dads, who were dairy farmers, I always remember as a kid watching them. They walk everywhere around the yard slowly, but looking at everything. And now I know what they were doing. The general feeling is that the farms were here before the cheese, and they feel absolutely no part of the cheese. The cheese is not their thing. They're about the farms.
While the two elements become more entwined in terms of your practices, helping to push the cheese forward, is the challenge kind of bringing everybody with that?
I suppose so. I don't know if everybody will come on board with it though. Yeah, I really don't know. Oh, there's Raymond. Perfect. This is that herbal ale I was telling you about. They're not feeling the heat as much as they did yesterday. Yesterday they were all standing up, apart from two who were lying down, and they were all gathered around the drinking trough.
Have they just accustomed to it, or have...
No, I don't think it's quite as hot. Although it's meant to be hotter today. But generally they'll go and stand around, if there's no shade, which there isn't really much of. There's more tomorrow when they have the next part of this paddock. They've got all the shade there.
Yeah. Hence why when I got there last night, Richard was sort of a few pages into agroforestry.
Oh, was
the
he?
guidebook.
Good.
Yeah. I mean, I might have giving too much away there.
Well, Tom came up with the fine cheese sent up the box with that as the main point of it, but also some cheese and some biscuits. And I was hoping to get my hands on the book, and then Tom came up yesterday with a box with the biscuits and the cheese, and he said, "Oh, the book is Richard's intercepted that. Maybe he's intercepted to burn it."
No, he was reading it.
Yes, I mean, going to the barber's, just that way.
Yeah.
Ditchit, that's Ditchit Hill there. Barber's is there, and they've got their farms. And they've got all the old traditional orchards still, cider orchards.
The high kind of espalier, is it espalier? The higher orchard trees rather than the little bush?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Sam and Becky, they go and pick there.
Right.
So they have the commercial harvesters go in with machines to pick off the trees, but Sam and Becky are interested in the fallen fruit. But yeah, Anna, I've never actually seen it, but Anna's gone walking over there, and so it's amazing seeing their milking herds out there, just grazing around. There's loads of shade. I've been out there picking in the autumn with Sam and Becky when the cows are housed, or weren't grazing there, and the grass seems to grow fine, and it's not shaded out. Doesn't burn off in the summer.
I mean, if you're going down the route you're going down, then that extra element of biodiversity and also practically shade is got to be beneficial.
Yes, and also the drainage aspect. Those deep roots are helping drain away water, so you don't damage the soil so much for the cows. And likewise, they're holding on to moisture with their roots, but also with their canopy, keeping the moisture there when it's dry like this. It's a no-brainer, really. We've been very lucky with the weather this year. After an abysmal spring, I thought that was it. Everything was going to fail. It's turned out really well, and we just keep on getting rain, and lots of it, just when you need it. So this is why we haven't burnt off. I've got photos from the top of the hill. Was it last year? And you see that village there, next to Evercreech, is Stony Stratton. And it's called Stony Stratton because it's very, very stony, and it just dries out unbelievably quickly. It's the old riverbed. Yeah, so you can tell how much moisture is in the soil still from all the rains we've had, just by looking at the colour of the grass.
You're working alongside some of the, I guess, the longer standing members of the team.
Yes.
And I suppose the process towards everybody being, understandably not willing to change something that from certain points of view is not broken.
Yeah.
What is the point where you hope you will have changed minds? We're sort of start of seeing irrefutable evidence that this is the way to go.
I don't know, I think some people get it now. They're seeing it's working and really like what they see. They like seeing the cows go into a fresh bit of grazing every single day. I think they find quite a lot of it really bonkers, like following the dry cows. They're eating the stemmy leftovers from the cows, so they're eating a fibrous diet that doesn't seem to be much different to what we were feeding them up on the hill. And everyone's got a different opinion. Well, there are different opinions about, so some say I was starving them, keeping them too tight. Others saying I was giving them too luscious grass. I was giving them milking cow grass, and I was going to overfeed
Which is
them.
wasted on a dry cow? Or,
Yeah, but
or
also
is it
because
good for
they
the
won't be able
calf?
to dry off, and then they'll get fat, then they'll get ketosis when they calve. Or the other one way was I was keeping them too tight and were starving. But every day I come out expecting to see dead cows, but they haven't died yet.
What?
The year is still young.
Yeah, but that's quite a telling thing, that every day you come out. And part of that, and really that's not necessarily because you expect it, it's because you really don't want this to fail.
Yes.
Because that would be the biggest tick in the box.
Yes, it would be the tick in this
I mean, how...
didn't work box.
Because what I don't want people to get from these episodes is that obviously this is an incredible, beautiful place, but that sounds really stressful. But every morning you're coming out, you know, and kind of imagining, well, what am I going to find?
Yeah.
Even
Well, I
though
don't-
you feel confident.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, no, it is stressful. It's just the stressful feeling of. You sometimes feel like everyone, well, not everyone, but people are willing it to fail, and it's not yet. As I said, we're only halfway through the grazing season now.
So how much longer in would you start to feel a bit more
Well, I suppose
steady in what you're doing? In a
the
sense?
big test is going to be fertility this autumn. So when I start serving the cows at the end of August, are they going to get some calf? I won't be too anxious if it is a struggle. I think it was always going to be a struggle potentially with the Holsteins, but the Holsteins are on their way out. Next year, pretty much every single heifer that joins the milking herd, which is here is 65 heifers. I think 62 of them are dairy shorthorn sire, and then the other ones, the other 3 are red Holstein sired coming out of Ayrshire cows. So they're going to have that hardier, more fertile, hopefully, genetic base. And so there is going to be potentially trouble, and this is, I suppose, the big trouble is not that will the cows eat that herbal shit, because they do. That's the big, I was thinking that was the biggest one, was they won't eat that, they won't eat longer grass, which they do, so that's all set by the by now, as far as I'm concerned. But the thing is, are they going to be able to get in calf on it?
And presumably there's a chance, because you're in, that's the sort of first kind of transitional calving.
Yes.
That because of the, well, I mean, let's see, but that perhaps Holsteins are not so well suited to this particular method that the fertility may drop a little bit.
Yes.
Before it upcurves.
Yes, exactly. And they're on their way out.
This autumn is going to be an interesting time speaking to different members of the team,
Yes.
because if there is a drop off in fertility, that is an immediate, almost a red flag.
Yeah, so I start serving at the end of August, and if you're here 21 days after that, I may be looking very sad, because if everything I've served 21 days later comes on heat again.
So end of September we should have
Yeah,
a good conversation one way or another. Thanks for listening to episode 2 of the Westcombe Project. Don't forget, make sure you subscribe today so you don't miss out on any other food and farming content coming soon on this channel. Tell your friends, share it on social media. Let's get the word out about these amazing producers working today. Thanks for watching.